Hello, everyone. Welcome to Parents Making an Investment. If this is your first time on this site, I welcome you and I thank you for joining us and wanting to partner with us to make a difference and to make an investment in the life of our children. Today, I'm going to talk about um, something that we don't really think about until I think we have children, but we have seen it and we know, we recognize sometimes even before we have children, we recognize these cycles. And so it's not usually until we have kids that we then do something about these cycles, but and it's because we don't want it to continue, which is what we don't want to happen in the first place. But I remember growing up and I saw some of the things that my parents did, and they were questionable things. I wondered why. Why did they say these things? Why did they do this way and everything? But I think it never occurred to me. We just thought, I just thought that that's the way that my parents did things. And because they're your parents, you trust that what they're doing is right. Now, the part that I did know that wasn't right is that I heard a lot in my culture and just the verbal, and I call it, and they don't define it in my culture as verbal abuse, but it is. And that is telling your kids that they don't have any sense, that they're stupid, they're dumb, and you act like you don't have any sense. And I heard that a lot growing up. Believe it or not, I heard that a lot growing up. And there were times I thought because of the struggles I had, even in school and everything, I thought that it was because I might have been, not smart, but not realizing that it was the seeds that were being planted in my life. And even in the process, I remember having and being pregnant with my son at the age of 19. And I start saying that when I get to become a mom or an adult and I have kids, I am not going to do this with my kids. I am not going to, talk to them this way. And I remember saying that because I saw these cycles and in my family, and I saw it and I said I don't want these things to continue. And these cycles, they have a name for these cycles. They're called generational curses. And believe it or not, they exist. They exist, and they exist from even before our parents. They exist from our grandparents and their parents. And it's a cycle that follows generation after generation. And it's curses because usually it's wrong choices, wrong choices that people have made in our generation that has not only affected them, but affected the generation that follows after, that affected their children, that affect their children, that affect me, that will affect my kids, that affect you, that will affect your children. And so it becomes like this repetitive cycle. And sometimes we see it, we're so aware of it. We see it sometimes. We see the cycle of addictions in our family that we see, you know, our grandparents that are doing, and then we see our parents doing, and then sometimes we see it exist in us, and we are doing the same thing and not really pinpointing and giving a name that it is a generational curse and it is a cycle that we've been a part of and just falling into. And so sometimes we accept it because we don't know how to break it. And we just think that this is the way that it's supposed to be. Generational curses can be broken. It is up to us to break them. We have the power. We have the right to break them. And they don't have to follow us, and they don't have to follow our children. They don't have to continue, because it is up to us to decide when we want that to stop. And so today I'm telling you, because I've seen it in my own life, and I decided early on, before having my last 3 children, and I saw it with my son. I said, I am going to break these generational curses, because I don't want him to fall into that same cycle. And it was up to me to decide that I wanted that broken in the life of my child, that I don't want him to continue down the same path, and especially if the path is negative. The path of, addiction, the path of disobedience, the path of promiscuity, the path of drug usage and abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, depression, all those paths that sometimes exist, not only from us as parents, but even from our grandparents, even from our parents. And we've witnessed these things. We've witnessed abuse. And we say that we don't want to be like our parents, and we don't know how to get out of the cycle, but all we can do is say, I don't want to be like them. And so we try to avoid it so much, and yet still it seems like we're becoming just like them. But I find that it was up to me, and I had the right to break that cycle that exists. The sins and the everything, the curses that has been passed down, that has been handed down into the laps, according to Jeremiah 33, verse 18. 32 verse 18, that has been handed down to my children, that I have the right to break them. And I believe that you have the right to break them, that your children don't have to continue down the same path and don't have to have the same experience that you've had and that I've had as growing up as children and growing up as adults. The wrong choices that I made, that I don't want my kids to have to go through and to have to make the same mistakes. They don't have to. They don't have to continue those same cycles. The first thing, how to break the cycle, is honestly pray. Ask God to remove the generational curse from your family that exist in your life, and that it will not follow your children. Ask him to remove it, because he will. The next thing is in the natural. In the natural, what can you do naturally for these cycles to be broken? Especially when it comes to the verbal abuse, the physical abuse. And I experience a lot of name calling and negative name calling in my path. And I knew that that's something I didn't want to do with my kids. I didn't want to refer to them as dumb, stupid, that they didn't have any sense, that they're no good, that they don't have any ambition. I did not want to refer to my kids as that, because stupid does what stupid is. And so if a child believes long enough that they are what you have spoken to them, their actions, their behavior, their mentality will follow that. And that belief, whatever they believe about themselves, will come into existence. And I know, even from there were things I believed about myself. I believed that I wasn't good enough. I believed that I wasn't beautiful. And I just always looked in the mirror, and all I saw in the mirror every single time is every single pimple, every single zit, every single scar on my face, my weight. I wasn't big enough. I didn't look, shapely and everything. And so when you continue to believe these and believe the cycle, it continues. And so if you don't break it and start speaking into your children, speaking positive and not negative, speaking that they are important, that they are smart, that they are beautiful, that they are lovely, that they are beautiful and they're smart and they look good and they don't have to look at themselves and compare themselves to other people. They will continue to believe that same lie that you believe, that I believed. And so it is up to us to break it also in the natural, to break these generational curses in the natural by speaking positive words to our children. Even when they're struggling in school, even when they think that they're not smart enough and they cannot get this and they just can't get past these, the homework assignment, keep speaking it to them. Tell them that they can do it. I know that you can do it. We have to believe for our children, and we have to believe until they believe. And that is in the natural, how you can break these cycles that you know and I know that we are aware of. We are aware that exist. It's been existing from our parents and our grandparents, and we are aware that they exist. And so then therefore, what you see and the cycle that you see that exists, it don't longer have to exist in your kids. It is up to you. It is up to me to break that cycle, that generational curse that existed for so long. It is up to us to break it. We have the power to break it. We do. We are given that right to break it. And so today, start today to break those cycles, to break those addictions that we don't want to follow our children, to break those depression that we don't want to exist in our kids, those thoughts, those negative thoughts, negative thoughts of self-worth and self-being and intelligence and prosperity and success, unsuccess. Break it. So they could be prosperous, so they can be successful, so they can be positive about themselves. Because you know why in breaking it? You don't break it just over your children now. You break it over your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, their kids. And yes, they don't exist right now, but you are leaving and creating a path for them to follow. And they won't even know about the curses that existed, that you had to face, unless you tell them about it. But they'll be overcomers just like you, because we are overcomers by our testimony. And so tell somebody else. Tell somebody else how to break that cycle. You begin to break the cycle in your life today. And break it over your children by speaking those positive words and praying that those cycles are broken today. Pray for that they don't follow them anymore, and that they will not follow their children, and they will not follow your grandchildren. Believe it today. Because it's possible. I did it for mine, and I continue to do it for my kids. I pray that everything that I see that has happened in my past and the wrong choices that I've made, that they are not affected and they don't have to suffer under it because of the wrong choices I've made, but they can rise up and be successful. So today, start today. If you haven't, and if you're doing it, continue, because the work is not done yet. But if you haven't, you can start today. It's not too late. It's not too late whether your child is unborn and you're expecting. It's not too late whether your child is in high school or graduating from high school. It's not too late to start today. At any stage, it is not too late to break the generational curse, break those cycles that exist in your family and in your life, so it does not have to continue for another generation. Begin today. Be blessed.